Okay, welcome. This is coordinating a new EPA Municipal Stormwater Permit with Merita Trohimovich. Merita is a professional civil engineer with over 20 years of experience in the fields of wastewater and stormwater. Merita leads the City of Tacoma's MPDES Phase 1 Municipal Stormwater Compliance team and has led projects in low impact development and green stormwater infrastructure policy and capital projects. Merita has a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from University of Washington and has worked for both municipalities and consulting firms.
All right, well, thanks everyone for coming to hear this nerdy talk about this quite nerdy subject, but it's exciting, right? So, you know, in Washington, we have all of these permits issued by Ecology, and we have, I think so far, 0 municipal permits issued by EPA. So this is an interesting process. No, not gonna work. All right, so what's going on right now is Tacoma submitted our permit application to EPA in 2010. That's right, 2010. Spoiler alert, we don't have our permit yet. Pierce County and WSDOT also submitted at a similar time frame, and we thought it was going to be a general permit, but EPA has decided that each one will be individual permits, and that's just because the contributory areas and the activities within the contributory areas are so different. So the first draft of these permits was issued in 2021, and we had significant comments. The second draft, it was actually addressed many of our comments. It was issued in 2022. We submitted comments on September of 2022, and we are now waiting for our final permit. EPA and the Puyallup Tribe, so EPA is writing this, but the Puyallup Tribe is coordinating, collaborating. There's a lot of discussions between both entities because these are waters of the Puyallup Tribe, even though they're technically waters of the US, but they are waters of the Puyallup Tribe. The 401 certification was completed by the Puyallup Tribe, and it was based on the first draft permit. They were super collaborative with us during that process. We met with the Puyallup Tribe. We talked to them about the 401 certification, what the conditions were going to be. We talked about language. It was a really great, working relationship. And the conditions from that were put into the second draft of the permit. The Puyallup Tribe has a very unique reservation area. So what we're showing here is, the area around the City of Tacoma, and the blue lines are the City of Tacoma city limits. And that orange shape, which is a little bit like a thumbs up, that is what is known as the 1873 survey boundary of the Puyallup Tribe reservation area. And about half-ish of it is within the City of Tacoma, and the remainder is in other municipalities, including Pierce County also controls some of that area. And again, this is very unique because unlike most reservations, the Puyallup Tribe does not control all that land. If you go to that area, you know that most of that land is controlled by other private owners, and all the right-of-ways are owned by the municipalities within there. So the tribal trust parcels are the area that the Puyallup Tribe controls and has sovereign nation authority over. And those are shown as the bright green on this picture. One thing to note is this long skinny one, and that is the bedlands of the Puyallup River. So the tribe actually owns that in trust, and portions of that are within the City of Tacoma, and we have 2 large stormwater outfalls going into that area. So those will be under this permit. There's also some areas, kind of this green swoop area up here that goes into marine waters, that is tribal trust parcel that we also have some outfalls on. And then there's some kind of in this area of the high levels as well. We think currently that we have about 12 outfalls that we'll be dealing with for this permit. Some of them are going to actually have to be surveyed to see if they're actually on a tribal trust parcel. So again, within the bright green, that's Puyallup Tribe Authority. The City of Tacoma has no authority on those lands. They are a sovereign nation. We talk to them, we coordinate with them, but we actually have no authority other than, you know, what they will give us. And we've been working collaboratively with them for a long time. We do some stormwater inspections of facilities on their sites at their request. And so it's really an interesting relationship. And you wonder, so there's all this area that Tacoma has no authority over. What's going to happen with this permit? Well, join the club. Pretty much the first round of the comment period was spent on where is this permit applicable? How do we make this permit happen? So just so everyone is aware, Tacoma currently implements our ecology permit throughout the entire city of Tacoma, partially because it's just kind of easier to do that than to try to separate things out, and partially because we were never really sure where this EPA authority was going to be. And so we're implementing our ecology permit everywhere. The ecology permit has, in the small words that I'm not going to read all of, permit section S2E, it's like an exclusion. I read it, and to me, it says ecology doesn't have jurisdiction within Indian country or water subject to water quality standards of the Indian tribes. It names the Puyallup River. It names the survey area. So we always thought that anything within that survey area, ecology probably doesn't have authority over. In addition, there was a land settlement agreement in the 80s that the Puyallup Tribe negotiated with the City of Tacoma and some other entities. That also has language that seems to limit ecology's authority over environmental matters. But also, ecology's permit coverage area map doesn't really show an exclusion area for the Puyallup tribal area. And so that's always been a little bit of a conundrum to me and others. So we've just been wondering, you know, the entire kind of first round, will there be double coverage, which seems really hard to figure out how that works? Will there be areas with no coverage? What's going to happen? Well, end of story. The EPA staff and lawyers will tell me where it's applicable, and I'll try to implement it with help from everyone else in the city of Tacoma. So here's a map that I was toting around during the comment period when I was trying to explain this conundrum to people and say, where's this permit going to be applicable? So this is a zoom in a little bit. It mostly shows that orange outline of the 1873 boundary. The green, or I guess this is the orangish red color, is the area that I'm confident is ecology permit coverage only. And then the blue areas, they are all contributing to outfalls that are on tribal trust parcels. So in my mind, those are all going to be under the EPA permit. And then the yellow is a little bit confusing because they're all within that boundary, but their outfalls are going to waters of the state, not waters of the tribe, not waters of the US. Outfalls outside of that boundary. So again, this is where I was kind of like, well, is there double coverage? Is there no coverage? Is there just one coverage? So the second draft had this permit, or this appendix, Appendix F, had all these words on it. It had a map, which was exciting. And this map was developed by the Puyallup Tribe. What the map shows is their boundary and the tribal trust parcels at that time. And tribal trust parcels can change at any time. So applications are submitted, and then when the federal government approves them, they become tribal trust parcels. So this map was generated, I believe, in 2022 by the Puyallup Tribe. all of the colors are the tribal trust parcels, except for a couple of green ones, which are parks. So that was in the second draft. It helped. It said the permit area are the tribal trust parcels, except again, this is a City of Tacoma permit. This is not a tribal permit. We're supposed to enforce it. We're supposed to make it happen. We can't make it happen on tribal trust parcels. So they did introduce another concept. They have the permit area, which is tribal trust parcels within the tribal survey boundary, no Tacoma authority. Whoops, it went ahead. But then they have this area of permit applicability, which is areas that drain to outfalls that are within the boundary, on tribal trust parcels, and owned or operated by the City of Tacoma. So that's basically some outline areas that we can actually enforce our stormwater management program on. And the words weren't exactly this in the second draft, so we submitted some comments to try to get them to be what we believe is the intent from many conversations with EPA staff. Again, this is a presumptive approach permit, just like the ecology permit. You do the activities, you're presumed to have good quality effluent. Well, it's not effluent, excuse me. Good quality discharge to go into waters of the state or the US. And that's really the only way this type of permit makes sense. So based upon these words and our current understanding, it appears that all of Tacoma will have coverage. Some will be ecology only, and some will be ecology and Puyallup Tribe. So just comparing the two permits, the EPA and the ecology permit, they're similar, but they are not the same. All right. Again, it's a presumptive approach permit, but there's a different numbering system. So if you're like Tacoma and you number things and you bill things to permit numbers, you know, that's going to be a fun challenge for us in the future. Also, depending on where things are within that numbering system, there's different applicability throughout your city and how things are going to be applied. Many of the requirements are just a little bit different than ecology's, and the reporting is just a little bit different. It does use the same enforceable documents, so our City of Tacoma Stormwater Management Manual will still be used. However, because the timing of the two permits is not likely to coincide, we could have some issues for those double coverage areas when we have a new permit from ecology or a new manual from ecology and an old manual from EPA, but we'll just work that out. There's a different annual report. There's more essay questions in the EPA. There's different reporting for spills. So we're going to have to work with our inspectors. So come up with some sort of a geographic system so they can, you know, stick a pin and then be told, oh, this is ecology reporting, this is ecology and EPA reporting, so that they can understand exactly what the reporting requirements are. And we're going to have to do a specific monitoring program, and which is different than the ecology permit. You know, there's no pay-in option, but Tacoma, we are very good at monitoring, so it will not be a big deal for us. And EPA permit does not cover discharges to groundwater. So the ecology permit does, because we have a state law that gives us the authority for that. And we're ready for the next slide, apparently. The new permit, it's a new permit. It's not a reissuance. That is kind of a challenge to think about in your head. You're used to the ecology permit. You're going along with your stormwater management program, and then you get a new one and you just sort of tweak that program and maybe add a new report or a new activity. But this is a brand new permit. And even though it's similar to ecology's, it's not. And so that was a lot of different thinking for myself and my staff when we were doing these comment periods to make sure, you know, is anything in this permit that is going to cause us to instantly be out of compliance on day one, because maybe there's no ramp up period, or, you know, some other way for us to make this work. And so we did request an issuance date and then a later effective date, so that if there's anything in this final permit, which is very unlikely the final permit will have a comment period because we've already had 2, which is somewhat unusual for a permit like this anyway. We can just do some tweaks, hopefully, between issuance and effective date. Other challenges, communications with city staff. You know, folks who are in the stormwater program, it's not going to be an issue, but folks who, you know, repair streets, fix potholes, libraries, other folks like that who don't live in the stormwater world, we've coached them on the ecology permit, but now we're going to say, oh yeah, and then we have this other permit too, and we need this, and we need them in a different way. So that's just going to be a lot of communication and definitely a challenge. We're going to have to revise our GIS, our maps. We have to turn in some maps to Puyallup Tribe EPA, that sort of thing. It's just going to be a fun new layer, which we're hoping we can get some more resources and staffing to help my group. And then planning for this implementation with no known date of issuance. I try to keep in touch with EPA staff. They're very busy. And they don't know when exactly it's going to be issued. So it's hard for me to tell my busy staff, say in my asset management group, hey, I need these changes made, because they're busy doing other things. Number one, I've only got a draft permit. Who knows if this is going to be, you know, what I really need, and who knows when I actually need it. So that's all part of the fun. I just wanted to mention overburdened communities. It's got the same language in the EPA permit as it does in the ecology permit, in the same places. We're looking at the City of Tacoma Equity Index, and the lighter colors are low opportunity. The darker colors are what we call higher opportunities. And as you can see, about half of the EPA permit area is going to be in low opportunity areas in Tacoma. So I will just say, for any overburdened community that you're dealing with, try to find out what is important to them. I've talked to their staff. I've really tried to find out what is important. How can we help these people in the stormwater world, in their lives? We know that salmon is important to them. We know that natural resources, water quality is very important. Another good thing is, if you're ever dealing with any community, look at their resources. So I spent a lot of time on the Puyallup Tribe website trying to see what they are presenting as important to them. And I learned a lot. And it's really important that you try to learn rather than making that community teach you. So you try to learn what you can, but then of course you have to verify that with the community. And I've talked a lot to tribal staff, but I know that we have a lot more work to do in this area moving forward. Considerations. This is kind of like advice, but I didn't want to hit you too hard. Get legal assistance. An expert is great. We hired an expert out of house legal person to help our in-house counsel, and that was really good. Compare the EPA permit to the ecology permit, other EPA permits in your area, just to see different languages, because these are all individual permits. Sometimes you can get a great idea for a comment from somebody else's permit. And if they've used it once, hopefully they'd be happy to use it again. Understand the jurisdictional roles. It did take a while for me to understand how the EPA and the Puyallup Tribe work together, and exactly, what the roles were. Some of the things that we have to turn in for this permit, we have to turn into EPA. Some things we have to turn into the Puyallup Tribe. Some things we have to turn into both. And then there's different approvals depending on what the item is. Understand the role of the 401 water quality certification. We, at first we were thinking, well, ecology will probably do that because this is a tribal permit, so why would they do it? Well, no, the answer was no. The Puyallup Tribe did the water quality certification because everything is going first into their waters and then into waters of the state as it flows downstream. And, as I said before, think about ramp up, make sure you're not going to be out of compliance on day one. location of requirements within sections to make sure things are applicable the way that you think they should be. And Ecology may provide comments. They provided comments on our permit. Anyone in the public can provide comments on your permit. It's a public comment period. You may or may not agree with those comments, but they will be there. And review your current delegation of authority. We had a delegation of authority internally to Tacoma that said everything for ecology could be signed by certain, upper management, but we did not have that for the EPA permits. So we kind of had to scramble around before we submitted our first set of comments to make sure they were on the up and up, being signed by not our city manager. Be patient. This is a new permit. Everybody's making time. I try to be really patient and not call my permit manager too often, but sometimes I just can't help myself and I call, and it all works out. And just think of this as an opportunity. It's a growth opportunity for you and your staff. You can tune up your ecology programs. You can just appreciate something different. And so moving forward, we'll probably get our final permit with no more comment period. EPA cannot issue it until they finish their ESA consultation, and that takes a while. We are hoping for 2023 issuance this year, we're hoping. And then Puyallup, Pierce County, and WSDOT will each get their own individual permits. And there could be more individual permits within the Puyallup waters. And that is the website of where the current draft of Tacoma's EPA documents are, if anybody is curious and like to look at those. And thank you.